The story opens with an anti-narcotics agency commander who is getting a secret mission to an intel and spy named Song-an. In essence, he was asked to infiltrate a drug cartel organization that was growing very rapidly, and his main mission is to trap the top brass in the organization. But this task is very secret. Even no one other agents know about it. Therefore, Song-an really had to be careful in his actions. A few years later, the commander sent an armed force led by Captain G and Soo-kyan to scout a remote village near the Borneo jungle. It was suspected that the place would be a location for drug trafficking. The village initially looks very normal, but underneath it all, the village is also massively producing drugs and weapons. At the same time, Song-an, who is still undercover in a drug kingpin organization led by a mafia named Fei Long, and it seems that they will soon make a transaction. Then, a mafia named Kun Yi is shown. He is one of the most powerful mafia in Southeast Asia, and now he wants to make a transaction with Song-an's gang. When they entered the village and headed to the location of the transaction, one of Kun Yi's men's car hit a drunk who was crossing, and in the end the car crashed into a building. Seeing that, Kun Yi ordered his men to beat up the drunks who were blocking his way, but not long after, there was a strange sound from the collapsed building. And when he wanted to check it, suddenly the men were shot from inside the building. Instantly, Captain G's troops jumped into the battle to catch them all. In the middle of the battle, Song-an ran to Kun Yi's car that wasn't guarded. Then Song-an stole a bag containing the illegal stuff. Seeing this, Fei Long told him to give the bag to him, but Song-an ran away instead, and because he was considered a traitor, Song-an was finally bombarded by his own gang. On the other hand, Kun Yi was involved in a very intense shootout with Captain G, but the captain's focus was distracted by machine gun fire directed at him. Seeing that, Kun Yi tried to escape, but was surrounded again by Captain G's troops. But when Kun Yi wanted to be caught, suddenly there was a shot from a long distance, and tried to attack Kun Yi. A sniper who saw Song-an with Kun Yi immediately informed Captain G and Soo-kyan. They both looked confused and wondered why their friend was there and siding with the mafia. With uncontrollable thoughts, Captain G and Soo-kyan ran through a hail of bullets to chase Song-an and Kun Yi. And when there was a chance to shoot, Soo-kyan couldn't even pull the trigger. Captain G rushed to pick up Soo-kyan, who was silent and stunned, then returned to chasing Kun Yi. In the chase, they were bombarded by long-barreled bullets and RPGs. Seeing that his illegal stuff were taken by Song-an, Fei Long ordered his men to taking back the drugs. Because his men had been eliminated, Fei Long was furious and immediately chased them with an armed jeep. Then without further ado, the mafia opened fire on Song-an and Kun Yi. But it didn't last long, as Kun Yi was able to turn the tables. After finishing off Fei Long, Song-an and Kun Yi were still being chased by Captain G and Soo-kyan. Seeing that, Kun Yi jumped into the back of his jeep and picked up an RPG. But when he wanted to fire the RPG, Soo-kyan, who had jumped from her car to the jeep, she immediately tried to stop him, and the fight ensued. Seeing Soo-kyan, who was lying on the hood of the car and helpless, Kun Yi immediately took back his RPG and fired it. Captain G and Soo-kyan, who saw that, quickly jumped off the car and fell down. After Song-an and Kun Yi could escape, the scene changed to show a woman named Da. Although she is beautiful and looks strong, but unfortunately she is Kun Yi's daughter. Here, Da is seen practicing fighting with his men armed with a log and a whip. She can defeat her men quickly and decisively. In her training, Da is accompanied by Kun Yi's right-hand man named Zaka. In the middle of her training, Da's men reported to her that her father had returned home in a bad condition. Hearing this, she immediately ran to meet her father. By the time they were in the living room, all eyes were on Song-an. Kun Yi confronts him, as he still can't believe that Fei Long's right-hand man saved his life. Song-an also said that the money he made with Fei Long wasn't much. He also said that he only got 10% from Fei Long. Then he wanted 20% of the drug sales from Kun Yi. Although Zaka still didn't trust Song-an, Kun Yi accepted Song-an's offer to join his group. They drank wine together as a symbol of the pledge of allegiance between Song-an and Kun Yi. The next day, Captain G's troops hold a meeting to follow up on yesterday's illegal stuff transaction raid. At the meeting, he confirms that Kun Yi has escaped with Song-an, who used to be a member of the anti-drug agency team. Captain G reiterated to arrest the criminals indiscriminately. No matter if it's a boss or an ex-cop, they must be arrested and punished. After the meeting, Soo-kyan practiced with her colleagues. During the rehearsal, Soo-kyan really couldn't focus because Song-an was always haunting her. Mixed emotions in her mind, as if she couldn't believe that Song-an in front of her was someone she knew. Seeing Soo-kyan, who was upset until it rained, Captain G was worried that Soo-kyan was sick. He immediately approached Soo-kyan and told her to forget Song-an. Captain G also tried to make Soo-kyan realize that Song-an was a drug dealer, but Soo-kyan just left him without caring about Captain G's words. After that, Soo-kyan rested in her bedroom. In front of her laptop, she saw a picture of her with Song-an and Captain G when they were still together in the police force. This made her remember the first time she met and talked with Song-an. In that memory, Soo-kyan also gave him a GPS watch as a gift of gratitude for saving him. The next morning when Song-an was having breakfast, Kun-yi suddenly came to him. He told Song-an that his team members still didn't trust him, including Zaka and Da. Kun-yi said that Song-an needed to do something to win their trust, which was to eliminate the rival mafia. Without further ado, Song-an accepted the order. That night, Song-an invited Dia to go to their rival mafia headquarters. Seeing an intruder, the drug dealers immediately attacked. When Song-an had found his boss's opponent, he immediately beat up his men and finished them off. On the other hand, Zaka was partying with his men at a nightclub. Zaka, who was drunk at the time, complained that the woman he was with wasn't serving him well. Under the alcohol's effect, Zaka got angry and slapped the woman unconscious. Hearing the commotion, the club manager immediately came to his karaoke room and apologized to Zaka. He promised Zaka to give him any other night he wanted, but the manager secretly reported the incident to the police. G, who was in the office when the riot occurred, received information that the perpetrators of the riot matched the characteristics of the drug dealers they were looking for. Soo-kyan, who heard about it, then secretly went there. Not long after, Soo-kyan and her team raided Zaka's karaoke room. At that time, Soo-kyan asked for Zaka's identity card, but he suddenly ran away from her. Soo-kyan chased and shot him, but only hit his hand. Zaka, who managed to escape from Soo-kyan, took refuge at his girlfriend's house, his girlfriend named Zing Shai. After the incident, Captain G scolded all his team members for acting rashly. Captain G then said that the raid they had carried out was illegal. They could also get punished for it. The next day, Zaka and Zing Shi tried to get out of the city. On their way, they were stopped by the police who were looking for Zaka. Fortunately, Zing Shi had smuggled Zaka and vegetable mash. When Zaka and Zing Shi arrived at Kun-yi's house, they were scolded by Da. She said that Zaka acting rashly could have a negative effect on their organization. In the midst of the argument, Song-an realized that Zing Shi's existence could broke his cover. That's because it turned out that they had met when Song-an was making an arrest of a drug deal. But at that time, Zing Shi could escape. Seeing that Song-an tried to get into the argument on purpose so that Zing Shi would realize his existence. And sure enough, Zing Shi immediately remembered that he was a policeman. Then Zing Shi immediately pointed her gun at Song-an and said that the man was a policeman. The tension increased, plus Song-an admitted that he was a former police officer. But then he gave the reason why he left the police and joined the mafia, because he needed money and glory, and he said that now he is Kun-yi's man. After that, Kun-yi and Zaka sat together. Zaka, who was still suspicious of Song-an, tried to convince Kun-yi that he was an undercover cop. Kun-yi, who was initially unsuspecting about Song-an's intentions when saving his life, eventually became suspicious as well, but they realized that they couldn't act rashly. They devised a plan to prove whether Song-an was an intruder by telling him to kill Soo-kyan. They then provoked Soo-kyan to come to them by sending a teenage girl to meet her. The teenage girl then gave a photo of Soo-kyan and Song-an together when they were still in the police. Then the girl also told Soo-kyan that Song-an told her to meet. Without thinking, she went to the place. When she got there, Song-an was waiting for Soo-kyan along with Zaka and Da. With teary eyes, she asked Song-an about the reason why he got into the illegal stuff kingpin. With an annoying act, Song-an said that the reason he joined the mafia was because of the abundant money he got. Song-an approached Soo-kyan, who pointed a gun at him. Then he counted to 3. Then Song-an quickly held Soo-kyan until she couldn't breathe. When Soo-kyan was unconscious, Zaka photographed her as evidence. Zaka then showed the photo to Kun-yi. Zaka said that Song-an's actions were worthy of their own brother. Kun-yi also asked Zaka to keep this thing, so that others wouldn't find out. It turned out that Soo-kyan was still alive. On the way back with Captain G, Soo-kyan said that she believed there was something odd about Song-an. The fact that she was still alive and only knocked out with his judo technique strengthened Soo-Kyan's belief that Song-an wasn't a drug dealer. Later that night, Song-an, Kun-yi, and the rest of the drug gang had a big party. During the party, Dae was always flirting with Song-an. Dae even kissed Song-an on the cheek. When Song-an dropped off Da, who was still drunk, in her room, Dae was still flirting with Song-an. He glimpsed Dae's face turning into Soo-Kyan's face. He immediately remembered his superior's message not to be impulsive. As he pondered, a bitter memory suddenly came to mind. In the morning, Kun-yi told Song-an to investigate a brick factory area. The plan was to use the factory as a place for illegal stuff transactions with a big buyer named Ma. Kun-yi didn't want this transaction to end up the same as the last one. Therefore, he entrusted his security to Song-an. In his investigation, he was accompanied by Dae. Arriving at the factory, Song-an immediately photographed the place and its surroundings. Then they took a break at a restaurant. Without much time, Song-an took permission to go to the bathroom. Da, who was suspicious, followed him. Arriving at the bathroom, Song-an took out a cell phone from his toilet water storage tank. In a hurry, he sent the location of the factory where the transaction would take place to his boss. After that, he pulled out the SIM number from the cell phone and flushed it down the toilet. After he came out of the toilet, Dae went inside and checked the place. But unfortunately, he found nothing. His superior, who received the location, quickly called for the entire anti-drug agency team to raid Kun-yi. Song-an and the rest of the drug cartels were given a brief by Zaka, so that the transaction could run smoothly. Zaka also collected the cell phones of his armed forces, including Song-an. Then he was told to drive Kun-yi's car to a predetermined location. But in the middle of the journey, he was asked to turn away from the brick factory and head to a forest. Soo-Kyan, who was in her room, heard and saw Captain G and his team were going to carry out a raid operation. Soo-Kyan immediately ran to the door, but the door was locked. She realized that she was locked up in her room. Soo-Kyan told her colleague to open the door, but he didn't want to. Arriving in the forest and meeting with Ma, Song-an was told to get a bag of drugs from the trunk of his car. In between, he sent a signal of his whereabouts through his GPS watch. Soo-Kyan, who got the message, then tried to get out of her room with all her strength. Elsewhere, Captain G and his team arrived at the brick factory. But it turned out that there was no one there. Captain G informed his superiors about this situation. Soo-Kyan, who had managed to get out of her room, immediately informed her superiors about Song-an's location. The entire police team was ordered to go to the western mountain forest. In the middle of the drug deal, Kun-yi suddenly broke Song-an's cover. He was beaten, then shown a picture of him with his father. When Song-an wanted to be finished off by the members of the drug kingpin, suddenly a sniper shot the executive dead. Then other police forces arrive and rush in to attack the mafia. By the time Zaka and Xingxi want to escape from the place, Captain G had already targeted them. As Captain G pulled the trigger of his gun, Xingxi shielded Zaka, killing her instantly. Zaka's anger could no longer be held, and the battle was inevitable. At the same time, Soo-Kyan caught up with Da, and they shot each other. When their bullets ran out, a hand-to-hand fight between two tough women ensued. Elsewhere, Captain G also intercepted Kun-yi, who was running away. His revenge was inevitable, although he was overwhelmed, but for the sake of revenge, Song-an was able to rise again. And then Song-an immediately finished Kun-yi on the spot. At the end of this movie, Song-an was seen walking in his official uniform. He was back on duty with his colleagues. He saluted his colleagues in the room. Proudly, they clapped their hands with big smiles on their faces. After that, the movie ended.